Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Let's give a big round of applause for Joseph McCarthy. Yes. Am I doing good? Woo! So.
Thank you. That was exciting.
Right? Yeah, they were good. Yeah. Awesome. Get comfortable already?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So let's just start things off with, give us a little bit of your background before I pour it. Give us like a little overview of you.
So I'm technically a recovering attorney. I'm making my amends. And, but most recently I was partner at a private equity group. And this idea actually hatched over beers with my co-founder, partner, and inventor years before when we were both executives at a public company. And you know, things just come around, and when this opportunity was presented, I just felt like I had to jump into it. Awesome. And that's how I wound up here.
And what did you want to be when you were younger? What did you want to grow up to be?
Oh, probably the same thing everybody else wanted, an astronaut.
Oh.
Yeah. For a while, I toyed with firemen. I grew up on Staten Island, so everybody was a fireman or a cop, and fireman was a much cooler opportunity. Right. You know, obviously, you got to slide down the poles, so it's fun.
Awesome. And what led you down this crazy, uncertain path of entrepreneurship?
Naivety, stupidity, but a great sense of just feeling that you had something and you wanted to take advantage of it. And take advantage of it in a good way. We felt we had, and as I said, you know, I was a partner at a private equity firm. We were, and when Brett, my co-founder and partner, brought this to me, it was a result of 2 years of his work on his own after a 30-second discussion at a bar. And I just felt like if he was gonna jump into the deep end, I saw this as my opportunity to jump in the deep end with him. And we went from there. Can
you tell us that moment at the bar, like what exactly happened? What was that experience?
Sure. So, no offense to Yard House, it's a great organization. I love going there. But I was the vice president of mergers and acquisitions and general counsel of a public company. Brett Jones, our co-founder, inventor, and CTO, was CTO of that public company. And unfortunately, I'm a Jet fan, so I have to suffer in silence. But he was a Colts fan. We were watching a football game in February of 2009 at the Yard House in the Irvine Spectrum, and we were no more than about 12 feet away from 120 taps. It took us 45 minutes to get our first beer. And when we did, Brett got something he really didn't like. At the end of the evening, at the end of the game, as people want to do, we said, let's have one more round. And by the time we were able to flag down a server, we just said, you know, forget it, we'll just close out. As we were walking out of that location, Brett just turned to me and he said, this is absurd. We were 12 feet away from 120 taps. I would have loved to go up there, serve myself, try lots of different things. We should be able to do that. I can build something that we should be able to go up there, pour whatever we want, and it'll automatically get added to our tab. I'm happy to pay for it. I said, that is a phenomenal idea. You should build that. And if you do, I'll help you create a business plan around it. Lo and behold, June of 2011, he quit his job. We'd both moved on from that company. He quit his job, worked full-time on this project. He'd been noodling with it and playing around with it for a number of months earlier. The end of the summer of 2011, came to me with a working prototype, said, here it is. I built it. And I kind of looked at him and said, I guess I have to help you build a business around it. And we did. And that was, we filed our provisional patents in November of 2011. We made our first installation attempt at a beta bar. We were going to test it out in December of 2011. It failed miserably. We went back to the drawing board and we beta tested it again in February, and it worked great. We incorporated in March of 2012, and we've been off to the races ever since.
Wow. I love that story. So what are some of the benefits to the patented technology? Can you kind of share that with the audience?
Sure. So, you know, one of the things, we just thought it would be cool, right? And that was one of the great things about I pour it. Brett literally built a incredibly robust database platform with redundancy built in. That was his background, right? Big enterprise systems, installing Oracle. You know, he was CTO of a public company. So he built this incredibly robust database system so people could just pour their own beer, which we thought was really cool. But it turns out it had these amazing opportunities for our clients, which are bar owners, hospitality owners, event and concession managers, which is 23% national average of keg beer never gets charged to a client, either through overpours, bartenders pouring off foam at the top, or through giveaways across the bar. So we can take that 23% inventory loss and revenue loss to zero. The other thing is, you know, the folks from TriNet mentioned it earlier today. You know, we are in a situation with employment law where it's just getting more and more expensive to keep people hired. And in food and beverage, the number one line item expense is employees. They're your highest cost across the board. And with higher minimum wages, the reduction in tipped wage categorizations, increased regulatory burdens, it's just becoming more and more expensive to have physical labor within an organization. So we can help reduce overhead. And what we found once we actually installed in our clients, the biggest revenue generator for our clients is increased revenue per pint. And what that means is, let's say we have a location that has 40 taps. Every tap within that location is going to be variably priced. So you might have a Coors Light that's 30 cents an ounce, all the way up to a imported Belgian quad, which may be $1.20 an ounce. And if in a normal service setting, people would be very hesitant to buy something, a full glass or a pint of something that's $1.20 an ounce. But in our setting, since you're paying by the tenth of an ounce, people love sampling things. They love trying things. So what we've found is, even though people may still not be pouring an entire glass of that more expensive product, they're trying it. Our average number of ounces per pour are about between 5 and 6. Our average number of pours are between 6 and 7 per patron. So we're still getting the volume, but it's a much higher revenue volume, about a 40% uptick to competitors in the same geographical area, and that creates higher margins and higher bottom lines for our customers. Then there's, you know, lastly is data analytics. When someone checks in on our system, we require them to scan their license into our system. That does two things, right? It confirms age, but it also allows us to database demographics, age and sex. And then if somebody actually logs into our database, they can unlock every beer that they've ever tried at every location they've ever been, and they can rate those beers from 1 to 5 stars. So now we have access to do direct marketing and targeted marketing to those people, build digital loyalty programs around them, so our customers know the who, what, when, and where, and even product preferences of their own patrons, something that heretofore was impossible. In fact, in the beer business, there's an old saying, the brewers only know that a keg goes in full and comes out empty. They have no idea what happens in between. We're changing that dynamic.
Wow.
And it's fun. Did I forget to say,
yeah.
For the patrons, it's a really good time?
Yeah, they have more time to enjoy.
Exactly.
What about like with, let's say, I don't know how to pour beer and I'm going to go self-pour and I'm going to make a big mess all over the counter. How does that work? Am I going to get charged for all of that foam?
So a couple of things. We actually have a button, learn how to pour. So if you push that button on our interactive touchscreens, an actual screen comes up that shows you how to pour a beer properly. But also, our meters are actually in the keg line, right? So a keg line is all fluid, is all liquid volume. So it's measuring liquid volume. Foam happens at the point of dispense or at the faucet. So if you hold the glass too far down or if there's a heat issue, that's when the beer will foam up. So even if you poured a full pint that was half beer, half foam, that foam will reduce down to a little bit. You'd probably be charged for 9 ounces, not 16. So that's how we solve that problem.
That's great.
Plus, we work with great beer line installers who do a great job actually creating a great dispense experience for people. So,
Great. That way they have more time to enjoy each other.
enjoy it, absolutely.
Right?
Who wants a beer with a giant head?
And-
You want to have some head because it actually
Right.
provides the aromatics. So
Oh, I didn't know.
there you go.
And then it gives
Give
the
that
employees,
gentleman,
right?
give that gentleman a prize.
Then it gives the employees too more time to spend with the people
With
in the
patrons.
place, right?
Absolutely. So
Like,
almost all of
the
our clients,
customers.
all of our enterprise clients, they require that most of our clients are craft beer oriented. Craft beer is the fastest growing segment in the alcohol industry. It's enjoyed 8 consecutive years of double-digit compound annual growth. Last year it hit about 20% and went from about 15 billion of the overall US domestic beer market to almost 20 billion. US domestic beer market is a $100 billion industry, by the way. 55 billion of which is on premises, which means outside the home. So it's a massive industry. Craft is the fastest growing segment of that industry. Almost all of our enterprise clients have, their employees are certified Cicerones, at least at level 1. So they have the ability to talk to people about what they're pouring, what they're drinking, what the flavor profiles are. So we take people out from behind the bar, where they spend most of their time with their backs to the patrons, pouring drinks, ringing up transactions. We put them out in the middle of the room where they can actually engage the patrons about what people are having and create a better service atmosphere.
I just love the thought that I can try like all the different beers.
I always have a beer before I have a beer. 1 ounce of this, 2 ounces of that, 2 ounces of that.
You can even make your own craft beer.
Absolutely. In fact, on the East Coast, it's very popular. I forget the terminology for it, but people do mix and match all the time. So it's not just your old black and tans. People are doing half IPAs, half hard cider and an ale. So people are mixing and matching all around. Yeah.
That's great. So you currently had success in raising about $1.3 million with your Series A funding round, correct?
Correct.
And some of those, I believe, your investors were from the OC.
Primarily from Orange County.
So what contributed? How did you get those OC investors to invest in you? Or what was some of the secret sauce that you
I wish
used?
there was secret sauce, just diligence. I feel like I'm on top of the world right now, but it took us 10 months to close the entire 1.35. It took us 7 months to close our initial tranche of about 700,000. And it's, you may know your company inside and out, but you need to understand what people are looking for and what format they're looking for it in. We were lucky enough early in the process to work with Bill Waldo and TriTech, which is a SBA, Small Business Administration support team here in Orange County. I highly recommend them.
And they're free.
And they're free. But they're individuals who are angels themselves, who are successful business people, who understand who can take your message and narrative and break it down into a presentation that will help you communicate your value proposition to potential investors. And I felt personally that was extremely helpful. We had everything that we needed in our package. We had all the information. We had the product. It's how you communicate it to an investment community that was something that they really worked with us on. And nothing moves fast. Your timeline is not other people's timelines. And especially in the Series 1, where you're going after angels, as opposed to VCs, these tend to be high net worth individuals who are either retired or are continuing to run their own companies. Your desire to get in their face and say, write me a check for $25,000 does not mesh with their desire to go on vacation to Europe for 2 weeks in July. It just doesn't. So you have to be patient and not give up. Never give up.
Right.
That's actually our family motto. It changed from suck it up, because when my 6-year-old was, my wife didn't really like it when my 6-year-old was telling my 4-year-old, suck it up. My wife thought that might have been a little too harsh, but it's plodding along. It's not giving up. It's just going through the motions and keeping on people's radars. If you don't hear back from them, you have to constantly ping them. Like I said, you may get lost in their folio of call lists. You have to keep them on the top of your mind and remind them about who you are. Remember me, Joseph? Oh, yes, yes, yes. So it's just a constant process.
And you pitched a lot, correct?
Yes.
And then one of your actual first investors was someone that you pitched to at the very beginning. So it wasn't a first yes.
Pitched to initially. Absolutely. Yuri Modry, we're really happy to have him. He's on our board. He's our lead from Tech Coast Angels. He saw my pitch, my very first pitch, loved it. And even with his support and guidance, and it just takes time to herd everyone within the group. And then, they're angels. So Tech Coast Angels did the due diligence. They led the round. They negotiated the term sheet, but we still had to go out to Pasadena Angels. I presented to San Diego Angels, LA Angels, Harvard Business School Alumni Angels, Ventura County Angels, Harvard YPO NYC Entrepreneurial Group. We actually were syndicated by Phil Nadell and Barbara Corcoran Ventures. So, it's how you build a cake one piece at a time that really gets you to over the goal line. So you're not going to be, it's rare to find a one-stop shop that's going to be able to write the check.
Can you talk a little bit about, I know you've mentioned about like a lead or a champion to help you get in the doors to all of these different opportunities. Can you kind of give a little bit more information on how you did that, or?
They kind of have to choose you. You have to find somebody who has enthusiasm when you are pitching. So that person who comes up to you and engages you after a pitch, that's the person that is most likely to be your champion. And once you find a champion, someone has to, within angel organizations, like I said, they're a disparate group of members who have vast amount of interests and experiences, but finding that champion who other people are going to look to say, okay, Yuri did the due diligence. Yuri did the due diligence memo. I can rely on Yuri's judgment of the character and the background checks and the people that he spoke to about Joseph McCarthy. So when I'm writing my check, I feel comfortable. And you really need that champion within any kind of fundraising scenario who's going to be that person that other people can rely on and look to, who's writing the check themselves. Who isn't Joseph McCarthy, who owns common stock, whose livelihood depends on this. It's somebody else who's investing alongside them with their own money, who they can rely on.
Awesome. I actually, Bill Waldo wasn't able to come tonight, but he actually sent me an email, and I just want to tell you what he said about you. He said, "You are the definition of a true entrepreneur," and he put that in quotes in big letters. So I wanted to share that with you because I thought that was really nice of him.
That's nice.
As an entrepreneur, we all, as startups and different things that we're doing, we have challenges and we get frustrated. How do you, or have you ever been frustrated, and how do you deal with that frustration?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I've been frustrated. I don't think there's a person who started their own business who's never been frustrated. I think it would be absolutely impossible to build something that you're proud of and is fantastic that doesn't require hard work. And frustration, everyone is going to have them. My wife reminds me that if I ever come home one day and say, "Hey, honey, I'm going to start a brand new company from scratch in a space that doesn't exist," she has told me she will go to the garage and get my son's baseball bat and take it to the back of my head. The only thing you can say is never give up. And sometimes you're sitting there and you're saying, "I just want to give up. I just want to go back to have somebody getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, to knowing what's going to be around the corner, to not be staring at myself in the shower in the mirror every morning saying, okay, what do I do now?" Everybody deals with it differently. I guess I dealt with it by just looking myself back and saying, I guess we're just going to have to go to the office and figure it out, And everybody's going to have different experiences. And like I said, talking about having a lead and angels earlier, people's experiences are going to be different than that. I mean, hopefully there's people out in this audience that find a high net worth individual that's going to write the check to start their company from the ground up, or a VC that just absolutely is attracted to your business. But I'm just going to be honest and say, I think that's probably the rare experience. And you also have to know, in my heart, always, I knew we had a product. I knew it worked, and I knew it had value. So I felt like I had this thing, and I just had to get people to give me money to help get it to the next stage. So I never felt like, someone once, another entrepreneur told me it's like being in purgatory, right? You're not in heaven, you're not in hell. You're not going to go back to hell, but there's a chance you can go to heaven, right? So you're waiting for that sort of, that tipping point right? Where all of a sudden you've done all the work, the product works, everything, you know you have something that is of value. It's a matter of getting people to recognize it, see it, and buy it. And so I was always confident that we had that thing. I just couldn't figure out and knew it was going to take hard work to get it to the point where people were calling us, asking for what we did, as opposed to me knocking down doors saying, you really need this, and here's why.
So that leads to my next question. iPort has had success getting your software technology into over 19 states.
19 different states,
right.
2 Canadian provinces. We have a licensee in Colombia, in Bogota.
Wow. So how did you go about getting those connections, and how did people find you? Because you're basically you're a new startup. How did you get the word out, or how did that even happen?
We went to trade shows, we did outbound marketing, we did cold calls, we were featured on Bar Rescue. We actually filmed a segment of Shark Tank, which never aired, so I don't think that actually counts. But you never know where that client is going to come from. I mean, I still, to this day, I'll spend an hour with a potential client talking them through their business plans and knowing what I've seen work with people and what hasn't, because you never know who's going to be the real client, who's going to be the person who calls you up and has an idea for a bar or a restaurant or a business, and they're a potential client, but when you ask, well, great, tell me about your space, send me your floor plans. Well, I don't have any of that yet. And I just try to spend as much time as I can with everyone, not knowing who's going to be the person that materializes with a real business plan down the road. You wind up spending a lot of time on things that don't necessarily materialize, but if you don't swing, you're never going to get ahead. So.
That's true. You currently have a team of 6 full-time people?
Yes.
And looking to grow, obviously. What do you look for as a startup in new potential employees or partners to bring on board?
Enthusiasm. We finish off any kind of job position with tell us about your favorite beer or wine. Tell us why. Tell us about your favorite bar. We want people who are going to be interested in what we're doing, not just because they're looking for a job. We want them to be interested in who we are and what we are and who we're servicing. All of our employees need to be talking to our clients on the phone. We all rotate. Hospitality is a 24/7 business. We provide 24/7 support for all of our clients. So when somebody calls up, and even if it's a hostess from a bar in Maryland at midnight on a Friday, we have to pick up the phone. So people have to be engaged in what they're doing, and they have to enjoy it. And I'd say that's the biggest thing for us. It's not just hiring an employee; it's hiring somebody who and I know it's trite and oversaid, but somebody who wants to be a part of the team, wants to be a part of what we're doing.
And what has been your biggest challenge so far?
Like I said earlier, we had this product, and I wasn't kidding earlier that I got into this through naivete, right? I was head of mergers and acquisitions for a public company. I worked for a top 10 law firm in the country. I was a partner at a private equity firm. I'd always worked with mature companies, right? And I'd never actually gone through starting a company from scratch. I thought we'd created this incredible product that people would flock to, right? The field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. Well, we built it, and then nobody showed up. So, what do you do now? And so figuring out how to, we weren't in a sales position. We weren't telling somebody why our product was better or more efficient or sexier than the product next to it. There was no product next to it. We had to build the space. We had to build self-serve as a concept in beer, wine, cold coffee, kombucha dispense, and that was the hardest part, is we were in the business of space creation, which, it's like, I had no idea. I had no clue how difficult it was going to be.
Well, as a co-founder and also the CEO of iPort, what has been one of your most successful decisions that you've made?
perseverance. I mean, literally this time last year, we had run out of money. My co-founder and I stopped paying ourselves a salary. We went 6 months without paying ourselves. It creates an incredible amount of stress in the office between partners. We were paying our employees, but we couldn't pay ourselves. We had no health insurance, and you've got families at home. Both of us have wife and children. And so, you get to this position where you just say, let's just sell the damn thing. And that's, we could have recouped the investment probably for our investors, gotten zero out of it for ourselves, but it could have been a learning experience. And we just said, no, let's keep going. I turned, Brett and I looked at each other and we just said, we can do this. Okay, can we do this? Yes, we can do this. And my wife said, I said, honey, if we don't have the money in the bank by August 1st, I swear, we'll shut it down, we'll sell the company. August 1st rolled around, I said, I just need till September 1st. September 1st came along, I said, you know what, I'm not going to tell you October 1st because I don't think that's realistic. November 1st, it's going to happen. And then we closed around in December. But we had wins along the way.
I love that story. In your opinion, what are some of the most rewarding things about being an entrepreneur right here in Orange County?
I just love where I live. I'm a transplant. I grew up in New York City. I spent 8 years in the Midwest. I thought I knew rural, so I went to a small liberal arts college in a town of 8,000 in the middle of Iowa, sight unseen. I thought I knew rural because I'd been to Jersey. It turns out I was wrong. So I've kind of lived all over the country, and I thought I'd never want. I lived up in San Francisco. I thought I made a temporary move to Orange County after spending a summer here. I said I'm never leaving, and I never have. I've been here since 1997. I love the weather. I love my kids' public schools, the ability that the parks, recreation, all the things that we have available to us. So to be able to combine that with the schools like Chapman, UCI. Big companies who are doing amazing things here. I got here in 1997. I was part of the initial dot-com boom and tech boom with companies like Broadcom going public. It's a great place to be for, there's a lot of intellectual capital down here in from my perspective, a beautiful setting. So I love it.
Awesome. The last question I have for you tonight is, what is one of your favorite quotes that you love or live by?
So when I talked about earlier space creation, my favorite quote actually in relation to my business is C.S. Lewis. Isn't it funny how day to day nothing changes, but when you look back over time, everything is different. And just looking at those videos earlier, you could see Gen 1 of our product in the first video with the little black handles and a sticker on it, to Gen 3, which was LED light boards, embedded RFID readers, interactive touchscreen tablets. It's clearly an evolution of the business. But not only that evolution of the product, it's, I think of our business and people say, where are you going? I analogize it to, let's say, self-serve gasoline. I can't remember the last time someone pumped gas into my car, nor can I remember the first time I ever pumped gas myself. It was a transition that took place over about 20 years, but 99.9% of all gasoline and diesel dispensed in the United States is self-serve now. I can't pick a point in time when that happened. I'm sure you can't either. That's how I like to think about our business. It takes time to be an overnight success, and hopefully you get to the point where nobody even remembers a tap handle behind a bar. So that's my goal with Lightport.
Well, let's leave that on a positive note. We want to thank you for coming and continued success, and we're excited to see what the next steps are for iPort. And let's give Joseph McCarthy a big round of applause.
Thank you.
So this ends the filming part of our segment, but we're going to take some questions. We're going to take 3. So I think Carl has the mic. And so who has a question for Joseph? Oh, there you go.
All right, do us a favor, stand up, give your name so you can introduce yourself to people just in case they haven't met you tonight.
I'm Richard. I think I know everybody here. So I was just curious about when you're going about getting your first customers or bars to install in, and you didn't necessarily have any success to point to. What was that experience like of coming into the first few bars? Were you mostly focusing just on Orange County, or did you just talk to any bar that would take you, or what was that experience like, and what were you telling them?
So true story. Here's how we got our first client. I was at my son's swim lesson on a Friday afternoon, and one of the other fathers there who I was good friends with said, "Oh, you know what? I was just reading the Daily Pilot. There's a bar in Huntington Beach that's that's putting in self-serve beer systems. Are you doing that?" And I kind of looked at him, and we hadn't even launched the company yet, and there were a couple of competitors with outdated technology, and I said, "No, give me the Daily Pilot." And literally, I called my wife, I left the swim team practice, and I drove over to Huntington Beach to a bar that was under construction and found the GC, and I said, "Hey, I'm Joseph McCarthy. I'd like to talk to the owners. Are they around?" He said, "No, but here's their names." And literally, I had a meeting 48 hours later with the owners and convinced them to go with us. And we were able to demo our technology, show them why it was better, show them how we were going to be able to enable true self-serve to a group of 200 people within a location, as opposed to just at a table that had basically had an on-off switch. And that's how it happened. So literally found out about a location, had the meeting 48 hours later, had the sale a week later, which is one of the reasons I felt so good about jumping in and starting this business. I'm like, wow, I haven't even started this company, I've already got a client. The second client took a lot longer.
Good story.
All right, go ahead, stand up, give your name, and ask your question.
My name is Dylan. My question is, how important to you when you were doing fundraising was it to find strategic partners? And did you ever consider crowdfunding in any way?
So it would be great to have strategic partners when you're in startup mode. It's just very hard to attract them. So I had conversations with Miller Coors, AB InBev, some of the largest distributors in the country, Micromatic, Perlick, all of the big manufacturers and distributors of beer line refrigeration equipment. But it really is not, it's difficult for them to pull the trigger on any kind of new technology or any startup. They'd like to see some traction. So I think they're going to wait, if they're smart, they're going to wait to see the wheat separate from the chaff, right? See who rises to the top. Why make an investment in a bunch of different companies at the outset? Why not wait and see who's the winner and then invest later? So I think finding a strategic very early on, unless you have a really, really well-protected IP piece that they need or is absolutely necessary for their business, I think is very difficult. Or at least it was very difficult for us. As far as crowdfunding, I talked to the CEO of Crowdfunder, AngelList. Give me some more crowdfunding sites.
GoFundMe, Indiegogo.
GoFundMe we couldn't do, Indigo we couldn't do, Kickstarter we couldn't do because we're B2B and we're in the alcohol business, so the only thing we could give away was booze, which is illegal on all those platforms. But we did go out to all the crowdfunding sites. The key to crowdfunding is, again, like an angel investment group, you have to have that bell cow, that lead investor. There has to be somebody, if you're going to have anonymous people who have never met you, that you've never pitched to, invest in your company, there has to be some traction. So just about everybody we talked to early on, they can fill in around the edges. They can fill in investment around the edges. Once you have probably 50 to 60% of your raise already done, the term sheet already done, the documents negotiated, and you've got some credibility factor either through a private individual who's got experience in your vertical, or an angel group that people are willing to look to and say, you know, I can trust their due diligence on the product. So, and then actually we did wind up raising about $250,000 through AngelList, but it was syndicated by a gentleman by the name of Phil Nadell for Barbara Corcoran Ventures. So again, even though we had raised, and it was actually in an over-allotment option, we were only raising $1 million, we wound up raising $1.35 million, and we had to open up the round for that extra $250,000. So, you know, we were beyond the 50%, and it was syndicated by a lead, and, you know, that was how we wound up raising the money on those. So I can't speak to other companies that have had success or have gone through that system. That's just how it worked for us.
One more question?
Up here in the front.
Thank you. What are your revenue sources in your company?
Yeah, so okay, so our business plan, it's probably a good question to ask, right? So we make money up front on our hardware sales, so we're kind of like the Internet of Things, right? We have, when we sell a system, we install a valve and a meter in the keg line, we have an RFID reader, interactive touchscreen taps above each tap handle, everything is, we built our own controllers in-house, those are networked back to a management workstation, which is backed up in the cloud every 5 minutes. So that's the hardware that we provide on sale. That averages about $1,000 per tap for our location. So if you're a bar that wants to do a 40 tap install, it's going to be somewhere around $40,000 for you for that hardware installation. Then we have 24/7 support, automatic software upgrades. We create digital loyalty programs for our clients. We load all the beers into the system for them. So we take a penny per ounce subscription fee ongoing. So at the end of every month, we measure everything that's poured through the system, and we send them a bill, you know, and it's variable, right? So we're tied shoulder to shoulder with them. So if they're not pouring, if a tap is down, or for some reason, you know, they're not getting pour through on their system, we're not making money either. So we're, you know, and that penny per ounce is 16 cents a pint, $19.84 a keg. So we have two revenue streams, hardware and ongoing subscription payments.
Do you already have the app out for the patrons yet, or is that
So
coming?
yeah, we're releasing an app. So we have a 60 tap trailer. So it's a 53-foot trailer with 30 self-serve taps on one side, 30 self-serve taps on the other. It's going to be powering the it's going to be at 13 NASCAR events at Speedway International Tracks this summer. It's going to be their VIP craft beer experience. And the app is going to be released the weekend of May 16th. They're going to have a craft brewers competition at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The winner of that craft brewers event will get a $50,000 cash prize, and they will be the featured craft beer for Charlotte Motor Speedway for the next 12 months. So all of that voting will take place on our mobile app that we'll release for that event. So like I said, that penny per ounce, we're constantly upgrading our system, we're constantly moving forward. We're a software company. If you're not moving forward, you're going to get passed by somebody else. So constant innovation is part of our DNA.
Well, let's give him another round of applause. Thank you so much.